Okay, and here we go. I've replaced out the 5 16 microfarad filter capacitors with some beautiful 15 microfarad at 500 volt F&Ts. Okay, pop the cam back on and flip it over. Okay, welcome back. Now we've got the filter caps replaced and the cap back on. Next job is to flip the chassis over and replace all of the cathode bypass caps and the bias cap up in the corner. Just see if I can wedge that up that way, and hopefully you can see everything as I work. Okay, right. Okay, you can't really see that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start with the bias cap in there. I'm a bit short for room here, so I do apologise. Hopefully you can't really see. Maybe that helps. This cap in here, right. So what I like to do when replacing caps is to use my solder sucker. I'll just heat up, move that wire out of the way, heat up the solder joints, remove any solder, and then I can pop that cap out. Now this is a bias cap, and it's in opposite polarity, so what you'd expect, where in fact the positive side goes to ground, which is this side. So I must remember, and I can actually mark the board with a positive side and this one with a negative, just so we remember what we've got. Okay, this one is a 50 microfarad at 50 volt. The replacement I've got, just pop it out the bag and show you. Might not be able to see that. Let's just try and get you in focus a little bit better. Oh, nearly there. Look at this. We're getting there somewhere. There you go. 47 microfarad at 100 volts, which is a modern equivalent. So that will go right in there. Okay, right. I'm going to tin the end of my soldering iron. Unfortunately, my soldering iron maintenance isn't the best. What you're meant to do is tin the tip before you put it back in, but I've always done it the other way around. So, okay, so just melting this first joint on the negative side. Hey, look how much solder came off there. All that excess solder that came out. Oh, dropped it inside. We'll just give it another go. Okay, and then I'll just do the other side. Right, just going to pull this off. Actually, I'll just stop the video and then come back and show you what I've done. Okay, so what I've just done is just melted the solder joint in this eyelet here and on the opposite side, just to remove any of the solder that's there, and that will allow me to melt it once more and just pull this out. Now usually there's an underboard connection between this eyelet and this one here, so we have to make sure that when we put the new cap in, we haven't dislodged that underboard connection there. Okay, put you back on the tripod. Get you all in focus. Sorry about the lighting. Where'd my solder go? Here it is. What you're doing when you're tinning the end is easing the heat transfer between your soldering iron and the existing solder. Yeah, that side seems a little tight. Let's try the other side. What could have happened is the lead that's on this side could be the underboard connection itself. And what I don't want to do is yank too hard and not end up, well, and end up dislodging it. Hopefully. Ah, that's interesting. I'm just going to pull you off the tripod again to show you what you've got. And not every vintage amp is the same. It all depends who built it. There's my stick. So I believe this negative lead here also connects under the board there. It might not. But on this side, the lead comes out here through the eyelet and then also goes to ground. So this lead is from the cap. So what I'm actually going to have to do is just snip the cap out so we can keep those existing connections there. Because I don't want to disturb that. See, that wire just goes straight to ground. Okay. Back on the tripod. Back in focus. Here we go. So, snip one. Snip two. And there we have it. One. Try and bring it closer. It's quite difficult with an iPhone to get everything in focus. There we go. Mallory, made in USA, 50 microfarad at 50 volts. Out. Right. Okay. So here's our replacement. And just straighten out those wires. Get my lighting right. So what we're aiming for is to get negative to ground, sorry, positive to ground, like that. Get that in there. So what we need is to measure it up. We do that with some needle nose. We're just going to put it in place, measure where our first bend is going to be, kink it like that. What I'm actually going to do, just to help the next repair guy, in another 50 years, Let's keep the value facing up, and then he'll know exactly what I put in there. Of course it'll check the schematics, but just snip that. So you can see I've bent the wire in the right place and I've snipped it short. I'll just do a test fit. I can see that's going to work. Heat up my joint, heat up my soldering iron, and then I'm going to heat up the eyelet, melt the solder that's there, drop it into place, get some good heat in there. Just put a bit more solder in just to make sure we've got a good amount in there. Okay, so you can see I've popped one end of our new cap in. I've retained the original ground wire here, and it's firmly in place. All I'm going to do now is just make our bend there, snip it short, pop it in there. Easy as that. Okay. We can see what's going on. Fortunately, oh, maybe you can. Maybe if I just move that there. And get slightly. Fortunately, when you focus, it also adjusts the brightness, which makes it incredibly difficult to show you anything. Anyway, I'll just get that done. So, snipper short, rescue. Bend our wire nice and straight. Melt up our joint. And then we can just sometimes if you've got a particularly populated eyelet, it can be a bit of a fiddly job to get them in there, especially when there's existing bits going on. There we go. So now it's in there. I'm just going to go back, reflow all the solder with some new, just to really make sure the old and new components there can make a good connection. Line it up a bit more, make it look neat. And then, there we go. One bias cap replaced. So the next job then is to replace out this white Mallory cathode bypass cap. Connects to pin 8 of this valve down here. Now what you've got here is, I may have mentioned this before, these cathode bypass caps are actually 2 in 1. As you can see, there's 2 positive and they share a common, oh, I might have taken all the light away there, a common ground. Now I don't have any of these dual ones, but I have got individual ones, so we'll make those up so they'll just drop straight in. Okay, welcome back. Now I've got the chassis up on its, well, at an angle. Next job is to replace these caps, as I said before, these electrolytics. just while I've got you here, this amplifier was purchased in Switzerland, and so it's got a, well, what's rather unusual to us here in the UK is a very strange looking 3-wire or 3-prong plug. Now, because this amp's got a voltage selector, what I'm actually going to do is later on in the series, I'm just going to fit a UK mains plug, take that one off, just pop the straight one on. That will allow this amplifier, when selected in 240 volt mode, to be used in the UK. But first things first, we've got to replace out all these caps. So, as we did before, I'm just going to remove any excess solder and do this one first. You've got this overboard wire connection here, power supply and signal wires, all twisted. Fortunately, I can just move them out of the way when I need to get to the top and bottom. It's going to make my life much easier. Solder socket. Okay. So I'm just going to start with this joint up here. I'm using a 60-watt soldering iron on quite a high temperature. Allows me to get that solder melted very quickly, and that means I'm not applying too much heat to any of the resistors for a long period of time. Get that melted, get that sucked out. Just come down and do the other side. Just clean the tip. Excellent. So down here, okay, do apologise. The my iPhone ran out of space drawing that, but what I've done is I've now removed that cap. See if we can get zoomed in on what it is. There we go. Marley 25 microfarad at 25 volts, what we call a 25-25. Okay. So I've actually got quite a few different brands here of replacements to use. What I'm going to put there, I think, I've got some Tube Amp Doctor bipolar ones. I've got some very large F&Ts, twice the size, look. But I've also got here as it's just a single one, I've got a 25 at 25 Sprague. So I think that one will look go beautifully there, and then for the 6 there, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I've got 6 F&Ts to go in there. And I won't need to use the Tube Amp Doctor ones, which actually are my favourites, but they're quite expensive. Okay, I'm just going to pop this in there when we come replace it, the same as I did with the bias cap, and when we come back I'll show you the result. Okay, just replaced in that new cap there. There was quite a lot of solder in that eyelet. It must have gone on under the board somewhere because I sucked loads out, but fortunately it's all replaced, all looks good. On to the next ones. Back in a sec. Okay, so I just removed the dual 2525 cathode bypass cap. The negative lead is actually also the ground lead that goes off to the grass grounding plate, so I've had to snip it this end and leave the stub in there. But on this side you can clearly see that we've got our two positive leads. What I'm going to do is I'm going to grab two of our replacements, F&Ts, and essentially I've got to build one of those. So what I'm going to do, so I can see they're going to actually fit in the space, which is great. I'm just going to twist these two negative leads together, and then you can get them in that hole, and then I can just connect the two positive leads up. Back in a sec. Okay, it might be difficult to see, but what I've done is I've twisted the two negative leads together and soldered it as well. So what I can do now is I can just put those in there and then connect this into the original socket and then connect up the two positive leads. And then we've made ourselves our own dual 2525 cap. Amazing. Okay, welcome back. I've gone ahead and replaced out all of the electrolytic filter bypass caps inside. The next job is to clean out the pots and the jack and all the sockets and things, and then it's replace the plug, and then I think we should be able to oh, and the valve sockets, then we should be able to fire up. I just thought, just take this off and I can show you what I've done. So you can see I've put in some new caps. Excellent.